Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the return to troop. And the last 18 months have really given us the opportunity to reframe, refresh, reevaluate how we all live. And now that you've probably taken some stock in what's going on in your world, now it's time to kind of reset our troop operations, revise expectations, and re-engage with the community. We'll also touch base on, we'll revisit, if you will, the COVID careful guidelines to make sure that we're able to continue this year with safe girls, safe families, and safe Girl Scout activities. Okay, I think I'm gonna move this over here. Now I can see. Okay, cool. We're gonna go ahead and get started and move on. So someone was just asking if we could see the annotate feature, which is totally cool. I'm going to show you really quickly. You have your navigation bar in Zoom. You won't have your screen sharing on there, but you'll have your navigation, and sometimes annotate will appear right here on your bar if you've pinned it or used it before. Sometimes you actually have to click on more to be able to get there, which is down at the other end. There we go. And sometimes like it'll just be hiding in your toolbar off to the side. So you just have to kind of like hunt and peck for it. But those are the three places that I know to look for it when I'm on either a computer or a tablet. I do understand that maybe Chromebooks, there is some there are some challenges there, but yeah, so our annotate feature is right here on that toolbar, and then it will pop up. This is your annotate toolbar, and you can do stamps, you can draw, you can spotlight things. These stars are all my stamps, and then when you're done, you just need to be able to either hit clear, or later on today, I'm going to actually ask you to like annotate a couple of different things, and I'll need to make sure, maybe you can remind me to take a picture of that. And the way that you take that picture is with that save mark on that toolbar, and then you'll be able to go back and see that picture or share that picture or reference that. And when you're all done, you hit clear. You can choose which ones you're actually clearing, and then you want to click this mouse button again, the mouse arrow, because otherwise you'll just be stamping all over your screen like I did with the stars. So I definitely found that out, wanted to make sure I shared that. The chat is where we're going to be taking questions today. So hopefully you've been using the chat log in other sessions, and you just type your message down here, hit enter, and then we'll see your message. You do want to make sure that you have it set to everyone, so that we can, in fact, if you're having an exchange with just one other person on the call, I won't be able to see it necessarily. So do make sure it says everyone. Okay, I think that will do it with our chat. And now I'm just double checking to make sure nobody needs in. Looks like we're all set with that. And let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda for today. So we are going to talk about, as I said, resetting troop operations, revising expectations, and re-engaging with the community, and also covering that COVID piece. I did get a lot of questions earlier today as I emailed out a message to folks saying like, hey, if you have a specific question that you're hoping is addressed this evening, let me know so that we can try to work it into the presentation. And overwhelmingly, folks were asking about COVID. So we might even skip number 4 so that we can jump to number 5 tonight. So with that being said, sorry. Okay, here we go. So the first piece of what I want to cover tonight, and hopefully you guys were all on Monday night, and I think you were, so you've already seen this. But Mott Children's Hospital did a nationwide study on the impacts of mental health during the pandemic. It was just done earlier this year, so this data is very current. It was a national study, and the data point that really stood out was that 1/3 of teenage girls experienced worsening anxiety or depression as a result of the pandemic. And as we all know, girls lost their sense of independence. They lost time with their friends. They were under more stress trying to figure out this school home life balance. And that was really challenging. I don't have a girl, but I do have a boy, and he really struggled going back and forth because everything was always changing, right? Everything was fluid. So this is something that we really need to take to heart, because we're going to have to give girls a little bit more leeway this year. We're going to have to be a little bit more accepting of maybe their hot temper or their attitude, like they don't actually want to do anything with you. So we just want to give them a little bit more grace this year, because we know that they've been struggling. So that was the bad news. The good news is the Girl Scout Research Institute conducted a study also with a panel of older girls. And one of the very clear findings was that there is significant stigma around mental health, and also in smaller circles in our communities and schools. And so when girls were asked where do they feel most safe, or who provides that safe environment to talk about, mental health in a positive way, overwhelmingly that the girls indicated that Girl Scouts was the place that they felt best. Not at home with their family, not their school, and not within their community. It was in Girl Scouts. And we took that a little bit further, did a little bit deeper dive, and we found that it's actually not, GSHOM or the programs that they attend or anything else to do with Girl Scouts overall, but rather you, their troop leaders, that you are the ones overwhelmingly that are most positively supporting them in their challenges and their anxiety and depression. So if there's anything to walk away with today, it's to know that you are super important to the girls, even if it doesn't feel that way. And when you make a decision, like maybe not to meet this year because we're only able to meet virtually or something, that is going to take a toll on them, and they may have some abandonment issues because they are counting on you. So way to go to be changing girls' lives in such a huge way. And let's keep that in the back of our mind as we're thinking about what this year might look like, because you are of exceptionally high value to them. There we go. Okay. So, well, you may not even know the ways that you're changing lives, but you are fantastic, and we really do appreciate you and having you as a caring adult. And we need to make sure they're surrounded by more caring adults. So there are plenty of things that we can blame on the pandemic, but one thing I certainly have been grateful for is the time it gave me with my family. So as I mentioned at the top of the program, the opportunity to reevaluate and really reflect on what is important, where are my passions, what do I want to be spending my free time doing, how often we have family dinners, like that we sit around the table, like those were all things that I I took a peek at. And so I'm hoping that you all did as well. And assuming that you did, it bodes well on us because you're here. So obviously we're a priority for you. So just a reminder though, that every day comes with that big old reset button. So it's not just, life after the pandemic or still during it, I suppose, but you can do that every day. You can restart, refresh every day. And that's something we need to remind our girls of as well, that like today didn't go well. You didn't get that A on the test today, but you know what? Tomorrow's a brand new day and I bet you can ace that one. Okay, so as we look at resetting our troop operations and just, clean slate, a thing to remember is that, and I love Stephen Covey, this is just, of course, him. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And again, we already feel that you've done that tonight just by being here. So thank you for that clear indicator. And we're so thrilled that Girl Scouts is your priority this year. So I encourage you to like take a step back, and as you look at your troop, and maybe you've already done this, what could be better? If you look at your overall troop experience and the offerings of your troop and the experience that you have, and no doubt your family is clearly associated with what you're doing with the troop, what would be better if? And that's just, the question. We end it with if only this happened. The troop would run much more smoothly if. Girls would be much more engaged if. I could accommodate more girls in my troop if. The 3 processes would be much more, instrumental in our everyday activities if. So think about that. And my suggestion is to start really simple. Things would be better if I didn't have to chase folks down for the registration paperwork. It would be great if I didn't have to chase parents down to sign permission slips for their girls to go on trips. Whatever those things are, think about it would be better if, we're framing it in the positive there. And so something as simple as you wish you didn't have to worry so much about everybody getting registered, because we're going to talk to you again when product sales starts, and we're going to talk to you again 2 weeks after that, and we'll just keep making sure that we've accounted for all the girls that are active in your group. But looking at who's registered for 2022, and if that's something you don't know how to do, I have instructions that I will happily email you. And if you want to even annotate on the screen, I'll make sure that we capture your name, and that we'll make sure that you have some additional support with that if you need to. But knowing who is all set, that you don't have to worry about, they're already registered, they're in, that could be something that would help make your lives a little bit easier. It could be better if someone else was responsible for the cookie paperwork and inventory and orders. I don't mind doing the cookie booths and schlepping the cookies, but if somebody else were there to do the paperwork, that would really make things better for me. Maybe even like pulling out a list of the duties that you are responsible for with your troop, and you have the ones that you enjoy and the ones that maybe aren't so fun for you, that kind of have you scratching your head about why you come back every year. Let's identify those, and so that we can figure out a plan for how to make sure that those are not part of your daily, weekly, monthly grind. We're going to encourage that you harness the powers of delegation. And that is a true sign of leadership, of when you can bring other people up along with you, when you can relinquish some power to, let someone else learn from you and have the experiences that you enjoy, and learn those new skills. That's really important. And I know that it's easy for us to sit here and think, oh gosh, no one ever wants to help me, and they won't do it right, or whatever the case may be. But the thought here is that this is Girl Scouts, and it's a safe place to try new things and fail, and that includes you. It's a place for you to try new things, and maybe you will fail, and you'll learn from that, and you'll pick yourself back up and you'll try again. But it's really important that in order for us to continue to be a successful movement, we need to invite more adults into the fold. We need to give adults the awesome experiences that you've been having, so that the traditions will continue, so that they'll continue to spread the word about Girl Scouting, and so that we can grow as a movement. So my recommendation would be for you and your co-leaders to take a step back, look at your calendars together. This is something that you should be doing. And as the troop leader, it's okay that you choose a date that works for you. When we bring new leaders on board, that's one of the selling features, I think, as a volunteer, is that you have the opportunity to pick the date that you meet, the day of the week that you meet, and you decide what time and where, so that it's convenient for you and your family. It has to be you first on this one. And I recognize a lot of people are like, oh no, we meet together and we ask our families what day of the week they can do. And especially if it's a new troop starting out, that's something that absolutely the leaders need to be finding something that works for them. And then also, communicating to the families as to why we're making a change, and figure out how they can still participate, like especially if you're an established troop that needs to make some tweaks or changes. So that's going to be something that's all about you. You figure out what's going to work for you, your family, your priorities, and then you can go to your first troop meeting all set, knowing, here are the dates, here's the calendar. The girls can rely on a regular scheduled meeting date. Families can plan around it. You can work out, rides and those kinds of situations. So put yourself first on that one. That's the benefit, right? of being a leader. We're encouraging you to then, once you have figured out, okay, when the troop's going to meet, you're interested in delegating, you have some ideas about what people could do, you're going to call all those members from this past year, even girls that maybe you haven't talked to since December, but may have been registered with your troop. You're going to call them all. We're not sending text messages. We're not sending emails. You're going to call them and reach out so that they know that you're thinking of them. And you're going to invite them to renew their registration, because you certainly want to make sure that your girls are all in members in good standing and are covered under our insurance and are active members of the national organization. And then you want to invite them also to a required caregiver meeting. And a lot of leaders tell me, oh, I've tried that, it doesn't work. Parents just aren't available to come to a parent meeting. You add the word required in there, and you make it a flexible attendance, whether it's in person or if it's a virtual meeting. You invite them to those meetings and explain that it is required, and that we're going to be discussing things about the troops, plans moving forward, and we need all families to be represented. So again, you're not necessarily saying, hey, a parent has to be there. You're saying someone that represents your family will be in attendance. And when you go to that meeting or you host that meeting, you're going to have that list of roles that need to be delegated, things that would make the troop better if, and you'll have it all set to go as like a sign-up sheet so that everybody in the room can understand that there's some things that you need assistance with. And anyone that gives you a hard time about that, don't worry. In the notes, I've included an excellent, an excellent phrase for you to use when someone might charge you with, isn't that your job? And there's also a skit I'm happy to share also if you want to host a little skit at your in-person meetings to help really drive home the point about all the hats you wear as a volunteer and why you need some assistance. But you're going to address all of that during that required parent meeting or caregiver meeting. And you can address the expectations of the troop, which we're going to talk about in just a second. You're going to address the help that you need with the troop. You're going to talk about the meeting times so that they know when and where these are going to be. And there's a backup plan for if, COVID requirements cause us to not be able to meet in person. So these are kind of like the general first steps for resetting the operations of your troop. You're going to find people to help you. You're going to identify the things that bring you joy and that are fulfilling for you, and the things that are a headache or that you just simply don't have time for, or maybe you're just not good with money. It's not a great one to not be good with if you're managing troop funds, but maybe somebody else on your in your troop is an accountant and they could handle the troop finances, or maybe that's something that the girls frankly need to take over. There's plenty of opportunities there for you to delegate and accept help and help give other people the experiences that you're having. And then after that caregiver meeting, you need to follow up, and that's a phone call. Because if someone didn't sign up for the cookie manager role for your troop, then you need to appoint someone. And so maybe you already have a feeling about who that should be. So you're going to call them up and make that direct ask. The number one reason that parents say that they don't get involved with the troop is because they don't know what to do. Like they don't have any experience, or they were never a Girl Scout, so they just don't think they belong, or that no one ever asked me, which as leaders, we always say like, yeah, I asked someone to help and they showed up once and then that was it. Well, they don't know what they don't know, right? So that's all about effective communication, which we're going to touch on in a second. But the last big excuse is, well, I don't have time. And as we see from this quote from Stephen Covey, it's not about time, it's about what you prioritize. So, and thank you to all of you for prioritizing Girl Scouts. I keep muting myself. I'm really sorry. I hope you're able to hear me. So adaptability was the name of the game for 2021 and for 2020, and may very well be for 2022. But with this clean slate design that we were just discussing, you have an opportunity to create an experience that incorporates everything you've learned over the last year. So as I mentioned, delegation is going to be a huge new thing for many leaders. I know it's hard for me to delegate often. Sometimes it's just easier for me to do it. They're not going to do it right. And I don't know, do I really have time to manage a whole other group of individuals? Like, because that's what it's going to be. Do you have the time to manage those volunteers, or do you have time to just do it and take it all on yourself? So I'm encouraging you to ask for help. And just, my mom told me this when my son was born, just because your spouse does it different doesn't mean it's wrong. So whether they warm the bottle up in the warmer or in the microwave, it's not wrong. It's just different. And you need to get to be really okay with that also. So obviously there's some safety precautions that we always need to be aware of, but generally Girl Scouts is a place that you can try new things and fail. And there's no absolute, there's no totally vital way to do anything. So one of the best ways that I've found to share how to do something gently with someone that I'm trying to mentor or delegate a role to is to simply say, like, you know, this is how I might approach that, but you find what works best for you. That's a nice way of saying, like, you're doing it wrong, but you're not. So again, just because it's different doesn't make it wrong. And people might have some really great ideas on how to do something that you've never considered because you're so busy. Let's see, do I not have, oh, yes. So we're obviously discussing effective management of adult support, and you're going to incorporate those three processes: girl-led, learning by doing, and cooperative learning. And it may not necessarily be girl-led, it may be new volunteer-led, but it's going to be the same concept that you're going to apply with them. That's how they're going to learn. That's how they're going to get the experience. You need to work those three processes into, engaging those new adults to take on those new roles. And this is an excellent time for you to learn some new management skills. I have plenty of support materials that I'm going to send out to everyone with links on webcasts and some blog articles for you to check out that address how to build up that troop support squad or that troop committee. I have a webcast listed here and a blog article. And we just talked about the three processes. And when you're talking about troop expectations, before you have that adult meeting, you want to talk about how, where the troop will meet, how often. Even if you host a meeting and the girls don't show up, don't stop. You're going to set your calendar up at the beginning of the year. Maybe you have one virtual meeting a month and one in person, or maybe it's an activity that you go someplace, one meeting, and the other is, a focus on badge work that you can, again, do in person or virtually. Don't worry, there's some tools and resources that I'm sharing that offer some guidance on how to make those transitions. But you want to make sure that you have that all figured out so that you can present it to the parents at the parent meeting, so that you can present it to the girls, so that they know that, yeah, I wasn't able to make it this week or for the next meeting because I've got soccer, but I can count on you being there for me as soon as I get these other two priorities out of the way. You definitely want to be looking at how you're going to make the most of the product sales program. There are some troops that did incredibly well this year with the online sales or with the drive-through nut huts or cookie booths. And it is an excellent time for girls to really go back to the drawing board and say, okay, like, what else could we do differently? What does cookie sales or product sales look like for our troop this year? Set those goals now so that everyone can get on board, that everyone understands what the expectation is. If the intent is that everybody is going to sell and that you have to work, at least 3 cookie booths and they need to have an approved adult attend at least one, then that's it. And you have everybody agree and sign on to that. Of course, you want to make sure before you actually put it in stone that you've talked to the girls and they vote on that as well. But really taking a peek at and showing girls behind the curtain, like what the steps are to make that cookie booth happen, and empowering them. Maybe it's that, they thought about a whole new list. They brainstormed a whole new list of where they're going to host cookie booths or nut huts. And it's then helping them map it out to see where they are. And then also calling the establishment and finding out if that's an option. I think by the time girls are probably juniors, they probably could make that phone call and, do some practice role playing. But let them do some of the things that you have taken on. No one's asking you to do it all. We're just asking you to delegate. And some of those things can go to girls. Some of those things can go to other adults. It'll be totally up to you. Yeah, when you're revisiting these troop expectations, you can look at, okay, what will rules look like for outings and overnight activities? Like, do we use troop funds to pay for those tag-alongs? No. Do we use troop funds to pay for a first aider to get their training? Okay. That kind of concept. You can start fresh, hit the reset button here, and really come up with some plans that work well for you and your troop. And with regard to troop finances, that's a whole new ball of wax where, looking at, do you do online banking? Okay, so does that mean that it would be a lot easier to just have another adult manage that, and maybe they present something to the girls at each meeting, and then the girls can make decisions about their troop finances themselves? That's all of these things are opportunities to reset, make things better. Remember, you're just saying, okay, what if? So I am running a little bit short on time here, so I wanted to make sure that we were able to talk about COVID a little bit. Adaptability was the name of the game, like I said, and what we learned, and at least what I learned, and I'm hoping that you did too, was that things are going to have to be rather fluid and flexible, and you're going to have to be an excellent communicator. Communication is absolutely the key to making sure that we're successful with girls, and making sure that we're offering great opportunities for them to get involved at whatever the comfort level is. Communication is going to continue to be key here. You need to talk regularly with girls and families. You need to decide together, maybe that's a topic for your parent meeting or that caregiver meeting, is, how do we want to manage it this year? Your leadership team should really go into, you and your co-leader should really go into those meetings having some thoughts and some plans and a backup plan. And you could lay it out and say, here, this is what we're thinking. How do you feel? And it may be that they're not comfortable discussing it in front of everyone. So again, putting that communication piece in there, following up after that meeting with a phone call to talk directly to that adult, and maybe to the girl too, who knows, about those meeting locations and how we're going to manage masks. And is that something that's important to the family? Are there perhaps, some health conditions in the family where they're very at risk? And so we need to talk about how to keep everybody safe. Those are going to be conversations where you're going to have to be super open. You're going to have to put your opinion to the side about whether or not masks should be a thing or not, and not place any judgment or cast judgment on anyone in those conversations. You're purely looking for information and trying to understand where they're coming from. They're not wrong. Their thoughts may just be different. And always ask what they see as being an effective solution, or how do you see this working most effectively to keep everybody safe? You're really should try to kind of almost put the ball in their court without saying well, I don't know what to tell you. This is what we're doing. So you can either join or not. You really don't want to go down that path. That's not a fun one for anyone. So figure out together how to make it work. And as far as communication goes, we understand that there are a lot of changes with this. Again, it's a liquid, always changing and evolving situation. And so we do our best to communicate to you and all of our volunteers and our Girl Scout families about what's happening. And all of our volunteers are sent a newsletter once a month It's the volunteer newsletter. And anytime there are changes or updates or recommendations or best practices or anything that you should know, we're sending it to you on a monthly basis. Whether or not you're reading it, that's on you. But we are absolutely happy to make sure that you have that newsletter. And if you share a comment or annotate on the screen, we'll know that you've given permission to add you back to the email list, because it's likely that at some point you opted out. You may not even realize that you did it. That seems to be the case. If you have a shared email, sometimes other people do that for you, but we need your permission to be able to add you back on. So if you're check your email, you can even check it right now if you want to see if you have been getting the volunteer newsletter emails from us. Again, we send it out every month. Usually it's in that first week, I believe. Oh, is there someone that wanted to share something? It sounds like you're off mute. Okay, thank you so much for that email address. We will make sure that we add you back, Amanda. Thank you. Because again, we do need your permission to add you back onto those lists. But that information is there for you. Your area meetings, if you're not attending the service unit meetings or they're not happening regularly, take the initiative and say, hey guys, like, here's when I propose we have meetings and that we do them virtually so that everyone can come. And maybe you record those. Holding that information hostage from people is really not an effective way to communicate with everyone and make sure that girls are being served the best way possible and having the greatest experience. So if you're having some challenges with your service unit because they only share notes with the people that attend the meeting, like, that's a problem that we can help address. And it doesn't have to be another thing on your plate. You just have to let us know. So with that said, these are your team leaders by region, and you'll definitely want to jot down their names so that and email addresses so that you'll know who you need to speak with when you are facing challenges like the one I just mentioned. And ultimately, I know I did get quite a few questions today. Folks were wondering, are masks going to be required? Do we have to meet outdoors? Will events be canceled? Will there be council-wide activities more than were offered last year? All of these questions are excellent questions. And I joked with a colleague earlier today. It was like, man, if only I had a magic 8-ball that actually told me the future. The answer to all of those is we're going to try. We're going to do our best. We're going to continue to evolve and meet the needs of our Girl Scouts and our Girl Scout families as conditions change. We're going to follow the CDC and state of Michigan, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services guidelines and guidance. And as those change, we're going to change what we do also. So we're going to stay in line with those. So when folks ask, like, are we going to have to wear masks this year? Or are we going to have more programs? The answer is, yeah, we are trying to, like, we intend to, we have them scheduled, but we don't know what the future holds. So, and neither do you. And so I think if we were to, like, take a step back and look at those kinds of questions, which I'm sure parents are asking you, and that's why that comes up, I think that you kind of need to take a step back and say, okay, how do we make sure that meetings are safe? Or how do we manage the expectations of activities and events that are happening council-wide? How do we go about hosting a program that girls could come to safely? I invite everyone to kind of take a step back and just say, okay, what needs to happen? We could do that if XYZ, because I can't say with any certainty. Like, it could be that we all go under lockdown again, and then no, we won't have council-wide in-person activities. But I think you get my point. And so continue to check out our website and look at the COVID updates. Watch for that volunteer newsletter. And when you have a question, like, okay, take a step back, look at it, and think, okay, what is an appropriate solution to this? Like, I believe we could have cross-country skiing if we did this. You know, give us a call. Call your membership team leader that you see on the screen there. You're welcome to reach out to me. You all received an email from me earlier today, so you can most certainly call me and we'll try to get an answer for you. Call the help desk. There should always be your number one stop. And just to remind everyone, the help desk phone number is 800-497-2688. That's 800-497-2688. You can also send an email to helpdesk@gshom.org. And we'll do our best to answer you. So those are my general pieces of wisdom regarding COVID and ways that we can hit the reset button on our troops this year. Keep in mind that the volunteer toolkit is available to you. And if you're not familiar with how to use that, we had a recording, I think earlier this week, that we would be happy to share. But again, reach out to the help desk and we'll get you connected. I am more than happy to take a moment and answer questions if folks have them. Again, you can put them in the chat box, or I'm not sure if I can unmute everyone. I might be able to, but you're welcome to ask questions. Well, Amanda, I'm not quite sure why you haven't been getting emails, but we're going to go ahead and make sure that we add you. I'm actually personally writing down or copying your email address so that I can forward you one from my mailbox if you don't get it. Good one, Connie. Amanda. Oh. Other questions, comments, smart remarks? Yes, Jamie, I would be happy to. I'd be happy. Jamie asked for more information about how to get adults involved. I have some really, there's actually a webinar, and I think you can sign up for another one actually that GSUSA offered, and I watched a recording of one earlier today, and it'll be in the materials that I send you, that talks about, it's two volunteers that talk about how they have been effective in getting parent support or getting caregiver support or bringing more adults into the troop. Because that's something else to think about. Right now, with millennials are very interested in getting engaged in volunteer opportunities. And there is a significant group of that population that doesn't have children, but still are interested in getting involved in youth activities. And so it may be that we need to even look a little bit beyond just people associated with your members of your troop to find certain things. Like maybe you just want someone that knows Girl Scouts song and games. We can find people that know that kind of thing and would like to connect with you about that. Songs and traditions and all those sorts of things.
Sarah, can I share my screen and show the GSUSA tips for troop leaders?
Yes. Maybe.
Maybe. How's that? So you can see this, you just go to girlscouts.org, and I went to adults, and here, tips for troop leaders are some really cool videos that I think, I think there's one here.
I can't see your screen. I'm hoping other people
Skills and people skills. Some really cool videos, and there's quite a few. So
I wonder.
this one, how to build a troop committee.
Yes, that's one of the ones I'm sharing.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so it's on the National Girl Scout website. It's just girlscouts.org instead of gshom. But they have many helps for adults here too.
Yes, and that's truth be told, that's actually where I got my ideas. I mean, not all of it, but the information that I want to share with you is actually coming, some of it's coming from this exact place that Connie just took you. And the slide deck will, let's see, somebody asked me that. Sorry, Rachel. Rachel, I absolutely can share my slide deck.
I think all the materials will be up probably next week.
But since I will tell you all that since just a few of you actually attended this evening, I'm going to go ahead and send you anything I have tonight. So you're welcome. Rachel Brander. Okay, thank you, Rachel. Any other questions that people would like to ask or looking for clarification on anything? I'd love to be able to like ask what your key takeaways were tonight to complete the experiential learning cycle, but I'm not sure if folks can actually speak right now, Connie.
I don't know, is it? I don't think it's muted.
I could share my key takeaway. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sure. I think I'm most excited about having a parent meeting to clarify and restart our year. I feel like last year we kind of had to wing it quite a bit just because of all the changing regulations. And so we had originally asked for parent participation. And then as things kind of got more restricted, it was too tricky with COVID. So I'm looking forward greatly to having more of our parents lead and our girls lead experiences that interest them and that they're experts in. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rachel, something else just to consider too is that that personal ask, that's what's gonna make that connection. So even if they like say, hey, I'd be interested in doing this, you want to make sure that you actually reach
Follow
out.
up.
Yeah, exactly. You got
Yes,
it. You know?
you're totally right. People can't say no if you ask usually.
Oh,
I mean,
I
they
know.
can,
Like,
but they don't.
like literally, what are they going to say? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. Well, hello. So
Well,
am I.
thank
That's
you.
why I'm asking for help. Great to hear, Rachel. Jamie said something and I can't. Yeah, and getting more girls involved. And I think that that's the other piece is that, oh, I read a really great quote today. I wish I would have written it down because I'm sure I'm going to screw it up. Oh, nope, I do have it. Here we go. This was a child psychologist, Dr. Sylvia Rim, said that the surest path to high self-esteem is to be successful at something one perceived as being difficult. Like they thought it was going to be difficult. Each time we take away a girl's opportunity or to struggle, we steal the opportunity for them to build self-confidence. And they must do hard things to feel good about themselves. So keep that in mind. Must do hard things to feel good about themselves. If everything just comes easy to them and you never ask them to do anything challenging, then they're not getting the full Girl Scout experience, right? We're not doing a great job of incorporating those 3 processes. So they must do hard things to feel good about themselves. Keep that in mind. And they can always do more than we think they can. That's always, always. Anyone else? And at your caregiver meetings, be okay with silence. Takes me a lot of work to be okay with silence. So sometimes I'll set my timer on my phone. 10 seconds, Sarah. Okay, well, hearing none, I wish everyone the best. Oh, Jamie, did you have a question?
I missed the very last part of what you said because my kids actually all started screaming at the very same time.
Amazing. Look at that little one. My goodness.
Yes, that's why I keep my video off because she's
adorable.
She takes a hot takes.
Yeah, I was gonna say she looks about as hot as I feel right now.
Hi. And then I also have other little ones that are all.
Yeah, they're talking about being busy, Jamie. Goodness gracious.
Oh.
As far as what was the last thing I said, was that the thing about girls must do hard things. It's okay. You just call me sometime, Jamie, if you have more questions. Okay?
Thank you.
When it's quiet time. Well, see, it's people like Jamie. You want something done, call a busy Girl Scout volunteer mom like Jamie. Because she'll tell you how to do it. Okay, I don't have anything else for y'all tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I'll send you an email tonight with some resources and links, and then you'll have my info so that you can always reach out. And I don't think any of you were on the challenging behavior webinar last night, but I'm always able and willing to help if that becomes an issue for you also. So when and if. All right, y'all have a great night. Thank you so much, Connie.